In today's economy, everyone is trying to make money in their own ways, from being social media influencers to lucrative cryptocurrency.
But a classic method is one that has been around for quite some time.
Ticket scalping.
Isn't that what colonists did to otters for their skins?
No, that's not it, Chief.
Welcome to this episode of The Coin.
So what ticket scalping actually is, by Wikipedia's definition.
Because Wikipedia is always right.
Anyway, it's the act of reselling tickets for admission to events. Tickets are bought from licensed sellers and then are sold for a price determined by the individual or company in possession of the tickets.
In short, it's buying a ticket and selling it again for that sweet cash.
Though it was somewhat known before, a lot of the market, specifically entertainment venues such as concerts and sports games, revolves around this habit of resale.
Have you ever bought a product, then something better a year later, and tried to sell the old product to a friend for a cheaper price? That's kind of like scalping. In fact, I even tried that for this podcast. A while back, I bought a 7-port USB hub for around $30. I just recently found an 11-port hub for just $28. In an attempt to turn a profit, I offered to sell my friends the old port for $32, but they wouldn't bite. Now I'm still trying to sell it at a price of $15, and I have 0 buyers. Scalping is difficult in a market with low demand.
And when you're doing ticket scalping now, you're trying to sell the ticket for a higher price than what you bought it for to strangers in order to turn a profit.
The most common instance of this is if you buy a ticket for face value and sell it for a higher price in order to turn a profit. Take the Golden State Warriors for example. If you buy a ticket for $50, then closer to tip-off, you sell it to another fan for $75 and end up making a profit. And you can see scalpers if you go to a sporting event. They're the ones outside with the "I need tickets" signs.
Usually you can only do that for high-demand games, right?
Right.
Yeah, if there's no demand for a game, people can just find a ticket online for $50. But since there's a fixed supply of seats in a stadium, scalpers can mark their prices way up because there will be people who would pay a much higher price to go to a sold-out game.
Looks like I'm not going to that Laker game tomorrow.
Actually, if you want to, you could. I have a ticket and I'll sell it to you for $75.
I got you for $73.
And I still end up paying more than the original price.
And I'd still get the big bucks.
And this industry is really profitable, with one source saying that online brokering for the top resellers can make 6 figures.
That might not sound like a lot per seller, but it really does add up, and it's millions
$1 million
in profits for those who found themselves in this market.
In fact, we were able to contact a friend of ours who has done this and wanted to get his insight.
I asked if I could interview him, but when I told him that this podcast would probably be played to the class since it's going to be the best, he said he'd rather remain anonymous. So we did the interview over email, and one of us will be reading the conversation of our friend aloud.
That will be me.
Okay, first we asked, what was the first thing you resold?
Funny enough, it was online players in a sports game. Early in high school, I was playing a hit game called Madden Mobile. I found a star player in an auction for cheap, won it with some luck, and sold it again for a much higher price.
You know, my friend did a similar thing in FIFA with players on Ultimate Team.
What about after your mad adventures?
After that, it was time to make some real moolah, so I was able to get a few Supreme products when they dropped, sold them online, and made around $300.
Do you think scalping's good for business, or does it take somewhat profitability away?
Not really. When I originally buy the product, the seller is profiting. Scalping is simply to get myself money. However, if the stigma of scalping grows and the scalping market increases, people may tend to lean away from buying any products associated with a brand that has many scalpers. This would only occur if demand drops significantly, but currently, events in which scalping occurs tend to have extremely high demand.
Do you think you'll be doing this again in the future?
Yee dog, I got to bring home the bacon somehow, quote unquote. He also mentions how scalping does indeed have its dangers, but the amount of profits that you can make is usually worth the risk.
Speaking of risk, the reason our friend mentioned it is because scalping is actually prohibited by law in some states. Some laws only present a partial ban, where you can't scalp outside a stadium but can still do it online. In other places, however, it's illegal throughout the entire state. Even then, you can avoid this by reselling tickets from another state that has more relaxed laws.
For example, we recorded this in LA, but we could scalp tickets to the next Brooklyn Nets game and we wouldn't be subject to New York's ticket resale laws. This would still be a risk because California has its own laws on the subject.
All in all, scalping is something big in our lives now. In our society, especially in our generation that is in college, we all have FOMO, or a fear of missing out. For some of us who are late to the party, our only option is to pay a little bit more to go to that concert that we really, really want to see. Certain markets have higher scalping, and it's always the hyped, high-profile, high-demand events. Scalping in a low-demand market is just extremely difficult, if not impossible.
And that's all we have for today.
This has been The Coin.
With your hosts Justin, Connor, and Jonathan, thanks for watching.
Signing off.